the plug down there. Hello, everybody. I'm not sure if we're live. If we're live, could somebody let me know? Hold on. We should be live.
Yes, we're live.
The green button. The green button is on. Little technical difficulty there, but between us, we sorted it out. Or should I say, actually, my ingenious.
No, you shut it down again.
My ingenious method is shut it down and start again. Right then. So good morning, everybody. Sorry to keep you all waiting. I'd like to say good morning, as always, to my spirit guide, Grey Eagle, who is standing by my right side. And this morning, I'd like to say good morning to Carolyn, who is back from her vacation. And that's it today. Kachuro is somewhere or another, lying on the floor. We hope to keep him sound asleep. So Carolyn is actually frantically now. I can see her fingers going all over the iPad doing this sort of thing. So she is frantically, for some reason or another, I feel like I'm up on high there. Can you just, I don't know if I've got too many.
No, it's I didn't get a chance to move this.
Well, come on, get on with it, really.
I was trying to
just get it done properly.
Back live.
Get it done properly. All right, I think we're good now. If we're a bit askew on the camera, I'm sure somebody out there is going to let us know. But Carolyn is now frantically, right, Carolyn,
yeah,
sorting out your questions. And so with no more ado, let's go to the first question, shall we?
We actually lost all the questions because this is a new feed. So I was doing was letting everybody else know. Come over here. We've got Linda here. She's here.
Oh, dear me.
So
if you think that, well, actually, we don't have your questions because we lost it all because we had to switch off and then come back again. So please race to, type in your questions. We are probably going to stay on a little bit longer than we normally do because we're late. So we'll try and accommodate as many questions as you can hand to us. Just let me say this before we begin. This happens every week, all right? We're just at that point where we're about to wind down and we're thinking, okay, we don't have any more questions. And then all of a sudden there's a panic and we get several questions at the last minute. Please don't wait till the last minute, because if you wait till the last minute, the chances are you will not get your question answered, because by the time you put the question in, I know people are shy, I know people are reluctant to ask the questions, but please don't wait till the last minute, because if you do, we're done. We won't be able to help you. So, sort of write them in as quickly as you can. Have we got any now? Are we?
Some of the people are coming.
You are wonderful. Thank you for all of my fans out there, all of those people who love this show just as much as I do. And so, so I'm going to say thank you for your patience in that regard with us. We very much appreciate it. Right.
Okay. Well, we did have a question that Aubrey wrote in.
Okay.
Good morning, Rosemary.
Good morning, Aubrey.
Yes.
I love that name.
When does the soul enter the body? It's actually 3 questions.
You only count one. There is a lot of discussion about this. There are an awful lot of people who, think that the soul enters the body at the time of birth. There are people who believe that the soul enters the body right from the beginning of conception. I actually think it's sort of, really the other way around. I think that what happens here is that there are souls out there who are ready to be born, and they're ready to enter into this, let's say, this new life or this new earth experience that they're going to enter into. And that plan for them to do that has been in place for a long time, probably way before that little twinkle in daddy's eye or mama's eye saying we want a baby. Even before you say that, it is already decided you've already been chosen, parents have already been chosen, and the soul is simply waiting for that right moment. And so even at that moment of conception, the soul is there, probably before the moment of conception. It's a weird thing, isn't it? A weird thing to understand, which is why, you know, people say to me, I'm sort of anticipating somebody else's question, when we miscarry or a baby is stillborn or what have you, does that mean that that soul has, you know, what happens to it? Does it disappear? Does it disintegrate? What happens to it? But some souls actually decide that they really only want that moment in time of the conception of learning what it feels like to be inside the womb, of being attached to an earthly being. They want to have that experience of being in the womb and of being attached to another soul in that way, and that's enough for them. Others decide that they want to stay full term in the body, and at the moment of birth they then leave. You know, there are no accidents. I firmly believe there are no accidents, and as hard and as tough as it is for those mothers who have suffered miscarriages and stillbirths, as I have, you know, it's tough to believe that, you know, that you know, the baby is expelled, and then what? Well, then what? That child, even if it's only weeks, it's been weeks in the womb, that child, that soul still exists and still has a connection to that mother. Let's have another.
Well, she has an interesting second question.
Okay, right.
Is it possible?
Oh, we're not struggling for questions out there, are we?
Is it possible for the soul to leave the body before it's pronounced clinically dead?
Well, yes, because our souls go in and out of our bodies at will, all of us. In our sleep state, you know, our soul is able to travel. I think perhaps the question is more about, is it possible for the soul to leave the body on a permanent basis before we are pronounced clinically dead? And yes, because there are a lot of souls. When I go into hospitals and I see people who are dying, I see their souls removed from their body at that point, and they're, you know, the word hovering sort of it's weird, you know, to think that somebody's hovering around, but it's almost as if that soul is hovering and waiting for that moment of the last breath, the last tie, the last connection to the physical body when they are basically set free.
Lori
yes, good morning, Lori.
That she's having trouble loading the questions. So I'm not sure if maybe the live chat's a little wacky, but I do remember a question on the first feed. I don't recall the person that asked it, but they were inquiring if you could give them any advice. Her 3-year-old great-grandson was not speaking yet.
Can you remember the name of the person? I'm sure you're out there. You sent in us a question. We're hoping that you've found us. We're hoping that you're back on this feed as opposed to, I don't even know what I'm saying when I talk about live feeds. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. But anyway, we hope that you're there. We hope that you're back. This lady's 3-year-old grandson apparently is still not speaking. I've come across this a lot of times. I have a feeling with this, when Carolyn actually posed the question to me earlier, when we saw it earlier, when we were trying to fiddle about with the connections. And I have a feeling that it's not a permanent thing. I don't think that he's going to remain silent for all of his life. Sometimes it does happen that way, but in this particular case, I think it's just a question of perhaps, you know, sometimes children are just plain lazy, why shouldn't they be? That is not a criticism, by the way. If other people speak for them, or other people seem to know what it is that they want, or what it is that they're saying, if you have, or the parents have a strong connection with that child, and the child doesn't even have to speak to be heard, or to, you know, to let them know what he wants, then, you know, what's the point? No point, really. When he gets to school, when he's amongst other children and so on, you'll find it's a lot different. And in fact, Carolyn was telling me a story. Carolyn, do you want to? You telling me that it was odd that we got this question because you have a friend, right, who experienced just the same thing.
Yes, my sister-in-law, her grandson, he's a little over 3, and he just recently started daycare. And prior to starting the daycare, they were a little bit concerned that his language wasn't where it should be. He wasn't speaking all that much, and when he did, it was very minimal. And I talked to her last night. He's been in daycare for about a month, and he's
talking up a storm.
Yes, much improved.
So try not to worry too much. You know, children are like that. I had a friend many years ago. Oh my goodness, I had a friend who, she had an older son and a younger son, and all the younger son would say, until he was, I'm going to say, more than 4, the only sound he made was and then he would point to things, and she'd say, "What, cornflakes?" He'd say, "Rice Krispies." So, something else, and she let him get away with it. And so the only sounds he made were and, you know, the nod of the head or the shake of the head. He made himself understood. This is the point. So I think, my darling, I'm sorry I don't know your name, but I think he'll be fine. Just be patient. Don't worry. You know, it's awful. I'm talking to all of you mothers out there, and all of you grandmothers and grandfathers and uncles and aunts who boast and brag about your children, as do I. Oh, my grandson, my daughter was speaking when she was actually 11. When she was 11 months old, she could talk full sentences. She was walking when she was 9.5 months old. We love this, don't we? We love to. I mean, that's actually true about my daughter. My grandson was talking very early and walking. I think he took his first lots of steps together on his first birthday. We're always comparing, and the mothers whose children are not doing so well in certain areas might feel it. Oh gosh, my child is, you know, is not walking. You know, is a year old and he's not walking, whereas my friend's little girl is 10 months old and she's walking now. Trust me, by the time they get to 5 and 6, they'll be running around the playground. By the time they get to 5 and 6, they'll be talking up a storm. We're really dreadful. I'm just as guilty as everybody else. We love to boast and brag about our children and our grandchildren and how well they're doing. But those people out there whose children seem to be a little bit slow in some areas then feel maybe my child is behind because because everybody else's kid's talking and mine isn't. Don't panic about it. Promise you, by the time he's 20, he'll be fine. It's we do get a bit silly with our comparing and so on, but as long as the child is happy and healthy, it's okay.
Next. We've got questions.
Woohoo! All right.
Connie asks.
Good morning, Connie.
I had a pregnancy that didn't deliver, which means the fetus was not named. Does my child have a heavenly name? If so, could you tell me what it is?
I actually couldn't. It's a really good question. I've never really thought too much about it. I had a few miscarriages actually, so I'm sort of with you on that. I have to tell you that none of my babies were named. It never actually crossed my mind. I'm only just now thinking about it. But I'm asking Grey Eagle. I wouldn't worry too much about it. And whatever comes into your mind is what this child's name is. you can refer to that. But I remember, this takes me back so many years. I was with a group of students, and we had a visitor from the spirit world, a wonderful woman who used to come. She'd use my body. I'd go into like a trance state or semi-trance state. And this particular time, we had a whole group sitting in my study, and she went from person to person to person, and she said to each person, "Who are you?" And that person would say, "Oh, I'm John." She'd say, to point to another, "Who are you?" And, "Or my name's Jean." "Who are you?" And on she went around the group, and she began to get, she was a wonderful teacher for us. She was a bit scary. She got frustrated often. And she kept saying to them and going back to them again and again and again, saying, "Who are you? Who are you?" And the students were perplexed because they kept telling her their names. They kept saying this and that. And finally, I can't remember which student it was, but we're going sort of, sort of quite into the session now. We're probably half an hour into it, and nobody seems to be getting it right. And this little old lady, she would come, and she would say, "I'm the little old lady with no teeth." And she would come and talk to us, and she was very strict, and she was very stern. And every time somebody said, "My name's Mary, my name's John," whatever it is, she would get more and more frustrated, and she kept going around and around and asking us over and over and over again, until one of my students finally said, "I am." That's all she wanted. I am. And that's enough. It's enough that we exist. It's enough that we are. I am. And she was happy. So, I am a being. What is in a name anyway? It doesn't matter what your name is. It only matters what you are inside and who you are inside. It only matters that the light shines within you. So it's just a thought. It just reminded me of that lesson with the idea of this name. Let's have another question, shall we?
Bren doesn't have a question, but she just joined us.
Morning, Bren.
And it was her sister, Carol, that she asked for healing. And she's discussed Carol with you on a previous show. Carol is her special sister who was born with multiple issues. So
yeah. Okay.
She was just requesting healing, and Bren was saying, "Thank you very much. Can't go on with the."
I really love the comments. So if you've got comments, any of you out there, just send them to us, because it is really good. We had someone last week. Oh gosh, if Al were here, Al's away at the moment. If Al were here, he'd be able to tell me who it was and so on. But we had somebody who actually we had 2 or 3 somebodies actually who received messages last week. But there was one person who was given a very particular and sort of unusual message. And it wasn't until after the show that we got a comment back saying, "Rosemary, that was so amazing and absolutely spot on." I think it's good that people can see that, if I give a message and you don't understand it, it's fine to tell me. If I give you a message that you do understand, I think that's great. I think it's good for everybody else to share. I always feel when I go into a hall, if there's 100 people, if there's 1,000 people, if there's 10,000 people, it doesn't matter how many people there are. I always feel when I point someone out in the audience, or I give somebody a message, that message isn't just for that person. That message is for all of us, because it basically is letting us all know that there really is something out there for all of you who are skeptical, who think I'm crazy or whatever. We don't care. I don't care. All right, let's go to our next question, shall we?
Lori asks.
Good morning, Lori.
Do miscarried babies try to return again? I lost one prior to my son and suspect he was a twin with a near loss of him too.
I don't quite know what you mean by that last part, but I think the question is, do souls want to return to this earth? And as we've talked before, Laurie, as I've said before, some of us, when we pass, however old or young we are, some of us choose to come back and do this all over again, and some of us choose to move on and to try other things and to go to move on and to move with other things. I am, however, hearing Grey Eagle tell me that your son has an angel who is that child who was, you think was lost to you, but I think is still very much part of your family. Next question.
Jenny asks.
Good morning, Jenny.
Good morning, Rosemary. My mother had brain cancer, and I had the privilege of being with her when she passed with my father and sister, and wanted to know if she could hear us when she passed away.
With that, I'm saying this, Grey Eagle's hand came on my shoulder instantly, immediately, without a doubt. I think I'm actually telling you something that you already know, and you just want confirmation from me, because you know the last thing I know that brain cancer is a horrible thing, and and has lots of effects. But as we are passing, whatever it is that we are dying from, I'm using the word dying here, but whatever it is that we're passing with, that gives our physical body the inability maybe to hear, to see, to sense, to be aware, our soul hears every word we say. Our soul recognizes us, recognizes our voice, recognizes the tenderness of our love. Our soul hears everything. Your mother heard everything.
Mary asks.
Good morning, Mary.
Thank you guys for all you do. My 8-year-old boy likes dresses, makeup, doing hair, loves Elsa. Some people frown upon that.
I don't know what Elsa is.
It's the girl from the Frozen movie.
I have a grandson. I'm not into the girls stuff, but go ahead.
My 8-year-old boy likes dresses, makeup, doing hair, loves Elsa. Some people frown upon that. What do you think?
I think whatever he likes. He's a child. He's 8 years old. I don't think we should force anything onto our children or our grandchildren. My daughter, I did try to force dolls onto her because I love dolls. When I was a little girl, I loved dolls. I can remember having a little pram to push the doll around in. I was always dressing my dolls and my teddy, always talking to him and talking to them. And I loved it. So I thought, I'm going to have a little girl. Gosh, she's going to be into the same sort of thing. No, garages, cars, trucks, you name it. She was happiest in corduroy trousers and sweaters. I used to knit all the sweaters for her. She was happiest in the mud, playing in the mud with my neighbor's little boy who lived up the street. She's turned into a wonderful and a beautiful woman. It doesn't matter to me what she is or how she thinks or feels, as long as she is happy. And she is particularly happy right now with her little boy. She's happy, she's healthy. I can see why some people might think that you're, allowing a little boy to dress up, they might consider it to be unhealthy. What if he turns into a gay guy? What if he's homosexual? Because that's what the underlying question is here, isn't it? That's what it's all about. Well, what if he does then? As long as he's happy, what if he does? And guess what? He may not. He may just love the frilly stuff. So, there's what doesn't matter how someone turns out, as long as they turn out to be kind and gentle and loving. And if he wants to wear makeup, my grandson puts nail polish on his toenails all the time. His mummy does it and he wants her to do it for him too. We'll be talking away at night time. He always calls me at night time, at bedtime, and I'll notice he's got, black nail polish or bright red nail polish or some sort of nail polish. Don't allow other people's narrowness to stop you from just letting him be a little boy. If he wants to dress up and pretend to be a little girl, why not? Why would you not let him? You can hear a lot of people now condemning. Well, you know what? Don't judge. Be careful. Don't judge. lest ye yourselves be judged. Let him enjoy himself, darling. Don't worry. He'll be fine.
We've got a comment from your friend Jeff.
Good morning, Jeff.
Being a bit of a skeptic early on, I'm so grateful for Rosemary helping us connect with our deceased son. Not a skeptic today. Thank you.
You're welcome, and I'm glad you said that, Jeff, because we have had Jeff did in fact, if you all want to go watch it, we did an Everything is Attitude with Jeff last week. You'll find it on Facebook, YouTube, and what have you, wherever else you can find it. It's an Everything is Attitude, and Jeff was our guest with Al and I. And we've had, as we do, we've had comments from people who say, how could you do this? And what a terrible person you are. How could you give people false hope and all of that stuff that goes on? Well, how could I not do this is my answer to that. And Jeff, thank you for your comments, because you're one person who has been through pain and hurt. You've lost a son in a very tragic way. You have come through it with so much help from so many of your friends, and also I've been one of those people who hopefully has helped you with this. And I'm proud to say that I've talked to Jeff's son on a few occasions, and he has wowed us with his knowledge and with his, with his ability to see everything that's going on with Jeff, so much so that I think, Jeff, he got you into trouble a time or two with your wife because he could see the things that you've done that you shouldn't have supposed to have been doing. So thanks, Jeff, for that.
He also has a request.
Yes.
Please send prayers from my friend Sally, who is traveling toward her death with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. No more food for her, and hospice is helping.
All right, we'll certainly send, I wish we had her, well, we'll put her on our healing book, but for those of you who don't know, who watch this, I always try to have our healing minute 11 o'clock in the morning, wherever in the world you are. If you could just spare 1 minute to send out healing to all of those people who are on my healing list, and Sally will be on that list very soon, Jeff, and for anyone else who might need healing, and for yourselves if you feel that you would like healing too. Let's have another question.
Dean joined us.
Good morning,
he said,
darling.
Finally found y'all. It was a little difficult, but he's here. And his house should be pretty much done this week, so yay for Dean.
Does that mean the Christmas cake is going? Because you're running out of time, but it'll still be good. It'll still be good.
Teresa asks.
Good morning, Teresa.
I'm asking this question from my daughter, who's having trouble logging in.
Oh.
She recently left a long-term dating relationship for a new man. Is he the right one, and is he trustworthy?
Oh, I have no idea. I'm asking Gregor if he can help us. The only thing I can tell you to do is follow your heart, because that's how, even when we make mistakes, and even following our heart, if we find that our heart was a little treacherous to us, or that we weren't listening as we should, it's all about being, having the experience, and life is about having the experience, not just the experience of being happy and joyful, but the experience of, suffering those tragedies that we have, because everything that we do is a learning experience. We're here on this earth for the blink of an eye, and I was actually saying just this morning to a friend of mine in Canada, 1 minute Carolyn was away and the next minute she's back, and I don't quite know where the week went in between. Life is fast, it moves fast, so make the most of it. If your daughter feels that this is the right man for her, yes. Remember the Buddhists, though. They go and they park themselves in a field and they partake of what's good in the field, and when it's time to move on, they move on. So just, I love this saying, allow the winds of heaven to dance between you and your fate. And that's what I would say to your daughter right now. In other words, go with the flow until you decide you don't want to. And if you don't want to go with the flow anymore, then put a stop to it and move on. Let's have a next question. It's being very philosophical this morning, aren't I?
More of a little comment from Queen Blues.
Good morning, Queen Blues.
Hey, love, I just started my psychic intuitive channel where I offer lover rituals to attract love.
Okay, then.
Can you send love and light from my journey?
Of course.
And she also was very nice and was showering Jeff, sorry, with love.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Dalek, Dahlak.
I think Dalek is good.
Hi. Was pregnant 5 years ago with my daughter. Until today, I remembered that there was a body standing by my side. I wonder who that could be. I think there might be a little bit of a language barrier. She's saying that they live in the Middle East.
I'm not quite sure what you're asking. So, and I don't want to just assume either that I know what you're talking about. So I'm going to leave that question for now. Could I just mention, we had an email this morning from a lady who's often on YouTube. Can you remember her name?
We can't mention.
Can you remember? Priscilla. So Priscilla was asking about her dad, and I don't know, Priscilla, if you're out there, but I do have a very clear message coming from Grey Eagle that your dad loves you very much. He sees everything that is going on with you, and he just wants to remind you that you're his baby. That's all there is to say. So lots of love. But Grey Eagle asked me to let Priscilla have that message. Let's
Gabriella.
Good morning, Gabriella.
Are we able to see in dreams as if I were my great-grandfather? In a dream, I saw a street, then I realized that my great-grandfather lived there. He died before I was born. Thank you.
Yeah, I think probably what's happening there is in your dream state, your sleep state, where the spirit is able to leave the body, not completely, obviously, but that, to leave your body and to travel. And it's in those times when we're able to connect with our loved ones in the spirit world. And it's often the case that even though we never met our grandfather or great-grandfather, whoever, our families, even though we never met some people in our families, we're often joined with them because, they're with our family that we do know. So in our sleep state, in that state where our spirit is able to lift and rise above and to go traveling, we travel to where our family is. And it is possible that you not only are aware of your grandfather, that you're able to meet him and say hello to him, which is also very important because often, when we ourselves pass, we cross over from this earth plane into that next. It's often the case that we instantly recognize people that we perhaps never met on this earth plane, but we have met them on our travels. Hope that makes some sense to you. Yes.
All right. We had an email from Megan.
Good morning, Megan.
She's asking for advice for parents who have different parenting skills. How to prevent her and her husband from going crazy.
Fighting?
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's often the way that, one partner maybe doesn't always agree with how the other partner is maybe disciplining their child or not disciplining the child. And this is what I need to say to you. If you are one of those parents, you need to find a way to communicate with your spouse because otherwise, as the child gets older and older, you're going to have more and more fights. Decide between you, talk to each other, use the same language. If you say something to your husband and he doesn't understand you, don't patronize him or don't shrug and say, oh, well, you don't listen to me. If he doesn't understand you, find a different way to communicate with him. Find a different way to get your point across. Don't get frustrated. Don't get angry. Don't get antsy. Just, come, sit down and talk, and let's see if we can figure out a way to, to work this out. My husband, thank goodness, many years. And I had very different parenting skills. I was the disciplinarian, and he was the let her just do what she likes. He thought that I was way too harsh on her. And who knows, he may have been right. I can tell you she's in her 40s and she's turned out fabulously, despite me probably a lot of times. I'm not a perfect person. I'm not a perfect parent. None of us are perfect. And, you know, if you're a woman absolutely certain that your way is the right way, think again, because it isn't. None of us is perfect. We all make mistakes. So as much of a perfect parent as you try to be, I can assure you, I was a fantastic parent with my child. If you ask her, however, she will tell you, she loves me to pieces, and she will tell you that I'm a great mum, but she will also show you a list this long, probably, of all the things I did or didn't do right, and of all the things I said that weren't right. You know, it's natural. We have our opinions of our parents, what they did right and wrong, and our children will have their opinions of us. I had to do something right because she's an amazing mother herself. So I did something right. She's also an amazing person. But whether she became an amazing person despite me or because of me, I like to think a bit of both. You know, don't, if you've got different parenting skills, talk about it and come to an agreement, come to an understanding of when you should discipline and when you shouldn't, what, you know, and also how you should discipline, and, you know, and the methods and so on. I can tell you this, though, as a parent, for all of you out there who say, that's it, no TV for you for a week, and then the next day they're watching TV, I can assure you that is not the way to go. Because if we do not teach our children that there are consequences for their misbehavior, they will grow up thinking they can do just what they please and hurting anybody they please. And they'll grow up with no idea of the responsibility that you know, as adults, we should be bearing when we're dealing with other people and in the workplace and so on and so forth. So this, my opinion is, if you say to your kid, no candy for a week, no sweets for a week, no this or that for a day, that's it for the day, or you're not having that for the next 2 hours, whatever it is you're saying, once you've said it, stick to it. There have to be consequences. And there are so many kids out there who are running riot and going crazy. You know, we sort of look at this world of ours and we see, you know, all these people getting away with murder, all these people getting away with rioting and so on and so forth. If there are no consequences, this is what happens. If there are no consequences in your own life, your life is out of control. If there's no consequences with your children's lives will become out of control, and you, the parents, will suffer. That's all I'm saying. I feel as if I've been lecturing for a bit there. Let's go. Next question.
Bren says, your advice isn't harsh. It is what it needs to be to get the point across, and often what we need to hear. You've given me some good, stern advice in the past, and guess what? You were correct.
Oh, God. I feel awful now. Did I make her cry?
Oh, I don't.
I bet I did.
Sharon asks.
Yes, good morning, Sharon.
Are our loved ones' spirits closer to us on the anniversary of their passing?
I think so, because, you know, for them, it is a celebration time. It's an amazing and a fantastic celebration because, you know, we do look in our Western world, particularly, we do look at death and dying as if it's a punishment. Why did God, you know, do this? Excuse me. Why did God do this to me? Why did God let this happen? And so on. We look at it as a punishment, but actually, I personally don't see death as a punishment. I see it as something that is simply the next stage in our learning and our growing, and it's something that we can celebrate. And so, you know, I always say, when it's my turn, I shall be cremated because why not? Because I won't be in that body anymore. You know, and I expect everybody to have a party do not expect anybody to go around being miserable and unhappy because I'm not here anymore, although I know it will be very hard on my daughter and on my grandson, but I want them to celebrate. I want them to have a party, and you know, I want them to make a cake as good as I can make it. How about that?
Sharon did add, 10 years today since my mom died. I do feel closer to her today, but not sad.
Great, that's brilliant. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Can you go out and celebrate? Buy yourself something nice. Do something good. Do something fun. That's what we should do. That's what she wants to do. Next question.
I thought you had a story for me about the little boy.
Something. Oh, the little boy?
Yes.
Well, we did have the question. Do we know who actually asked the question about the son or grandson who wasn't speaking when he was 3.5 years old? When I was in Italy, and I do actually write this story in one of my books. When I was in Italy, there was an audience of several thousand people. We were in a theatre, and I was standing on a high stage. And when it was time for me to come into the audience to give messages, I sort of stepped down from the stage and had to move between the stage and the first row of people. And in that first row was a lady and a sort of like a stroller, a pushchair, we say in England. And I looked down into this stroller, and there was a curly-haired, very dark curly-haired child, beautiful, beautiful child. And as I walked by, of course, I looked down at him, and the mother grabbed my hand, and she said, "My son is 3 years old, and he hasn't spoken yet. He hasn't made a sound." And so I'm cutting this story very short. I explained it to my audience about healing, and then I walked through the audience, and on the stage were these big screens so that everybody in the audience, because you know it was a theater, and there were people up on the balcony, and there were people in the theater itself, and I was trying to explain to everybody what it meant to give healing, and I asked the entire audience if they would hold hands with each other, join hands with me, and give healing to this little boy. And so I'm walking up and down the aisles, and talking and talking. And I went up one of the aisles, and I'm sort of a good 2/3 way up in this aisle, and I stopped in front of this gentleman. Now, remember, the mother and the child were at the front of the audience, way on the other side. And I stopped in front of this gentleman. And for some reason, and I had no idea why, as psychic as I might be, I had no idea why I'd stopped in front of this gentleman. And I said to him, would you like to help me to give healing to this child? And he nodded, and tears came to his eyes. And I, for whatever reason, I gave him the microphone, and I said, could you explain to us why you would like to give healing to this child? And he said, because I am the boy's papa. A needle in a haystack. A needle in a haystack. He was way at the other side and way at the back of the theatre. I mean, do people think that of the thousands of people there, I personally am going to find him? The theatre was dark, remember. There were no seating numbers that I could see anyway. How on earth could I possibly have picked this man out? A needle in a haystack. And when he said to me into the microphone, because I am the boy's papa, to that audience, I was nodding and accepting, which of course I was accepting, because the ways of the spirit world are amazing. Inside, I'm saying to myself, yes, yes, this is so good. The audience gasped. It was such a good example of how the spirit world guides us to where we need to be. And that man needed, as the father, to be recognized and to be brought into this whole healing process. It wasn't done because the spirit world needed to show everybody how amazing and wonderful and marvelous I was. It was given to this father so that he could be included, and it was given to the audience so that they could see that the mysterious ways of the spirit world, they do work in the most amazing and miraculous way. I was going to tell you that story when we were talking about the little boy who couldn't speak. And I do believe that that little boy in Italy is probably now speaking up a storm, and he's perfectly fine and perfectly well and healthy. But just thought I would share that with you all. Did you like that story?
That was nice. Very
nice story.
Yeah.
All right.
We've got Paul.
Good morning, Paul.
Hi, Rosemary.
Hi, darling.
Paul. You mentioned in Walk in the Clouds that people in the spirit world can influence things like birds and butterflies. How?
Well, very often, it's a good question, actually. Paul is actually, just while I think about it, Paul is talking about my new book, A Walk in the Clouds. If you need to find it, go to lulupublishing.com.
It's just lulu.com.
Oh, lulu.com. Or if you want to know more about it, or email us, rosemary@rosemaryalaltea.com. I want to know if Paul really, I know he likes the book, but does he have any comments for anybody? While I'm asking this question, maybe he can make a comment to let people know how much he loves the book, because it is a lovely, lovely, lovely book. And I do mention in there how those in the spirit world will use insects, birds, large and small, insects, butterflies, dragonflies, whatever, and they use them very often as messengers for us. They will send a butterfly, or they'll send a dragonfly. And people will actually say to me, "Oh, I saw my mother. She was a butterfly flying around me." No, your mother isn't that butterfly. Your mother has asked if that little creature will help to send a message. And it's sort of this universal, amazing language that we have, because remember, everything is connected to everything else. And for us to be able to whisper, and for our guides, our angels in the spirit world, all of those who take care of us, if that message needs to be given, through our angels, they will send this message. Very often you see a butterfly and you say, yes, that's, the Apache believe that the butterfly is the symbol of eternal happiness and joy, double happiness, and the butterfly is, if you look at it, the butterfly is the symbol of eternal happiness and joy. I do have a little story. I was talking to someone, and I've just mentioned that none of us as parents are perfect, right? And none of us as human beings are perfect, but that's okay. But years and years ago, I remember I was going through a bit of a tough time and questioning myself and questioning what I was doing and feelings, as we all do. And I can remember deciding, it was a lovely summer day, sunny, lovely day in England. Yes, we do have them there sometimes. And I walked outside into my driveway. And as I stepped outside into the sun, this beautiful, beautiful, huge, huge yellow butterfly was circling around and around and around my head and fluttering. So I was mesmerized. I was watching it. I was thinking to myself, how beautiful, how perfect is what I was thinking. How perfect and how beautiful this butterfly is. And then it landed on my sweater. And I looked down, and as I looked down, I saw that one of the wings of this butterfly was very badly torn. And as I looked down, I heard the eagle say to me, not perfect, but yet still beautiful. And this is how our angels see us. This is how those in the spirit world see us. And this is how we ourselves should see us, not perfect, but yet still beautiful. And when we are striving to bring up perfect children, we should say it's okay for them to be imperfect. They're still beautiful to us. Next question.
Well, Paul says,
comment or anything at all.
Paul says the book is extraordinary.
Thank you.
The sequel to The Eagle and the Rose, an absolute must read. Bren says it is a wonderful book.
Oh, Bren. Oh.
Maybe your best, but love all the others since I was late. Don't know if you discussed this, but any updates on the online classes?
Yes. I think we mentioned last week on keeping our fingers crossed. We've got a company who are helping us. which was the main issue that we had, of, you know, sort of getting things together. It's not the lessons that are the issue, because I'm the lessons. It's not the technology that's the issue. It's the how to put in place all the paperwork, all that stuff, all the office work, all of that stuff that, you know, we needed to get into place before we could start. So we're looking at January or February at the latest. So if you out there are looking for online classes and want to know more about it, email us rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. We have started a list of people, and it's not going to be hundreds and hundreds of dollars, I can assure you. We're trying to do it in the least expensive, I don't say the most expensive, we're trying to do it in the least expensive way that we can. And thank you, Bren, for asking.
Got a message.
Oh, I have a message.
Hi from Jan and Bob.
Oh, hi, Jan and Bob.
We're in Illinois. Miss you two so much. Our daughter gave us a sign last week through her son, our grandson. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, and thank you for watching. And let me know when you get here, because we'll go for lunch again.
And Vera asks,
good morning, Vera.
Do our loved ones know when we visit their grave? They are not there all the time if they have to work in heaven, but if we call them, they come. Please explain that.
When we visit a grave, and I firmly, firmly believe this with all of my heart, this is what happens. We go to the grave, we take our flowers or whatever it is we take with us. We leave them on the ground when we've gone. Of course, we pay our respects. And that's what we do when we visit a grave. We're paying our respects to those who we love and who we care about. However, this is what happens when we walk to the grave or drive to the grave or whatever. Our loved ones go with us. They're walking by our side. As we stand at the grave, they are standing by our side, and they're listening to everything that we say. They can do this whether we're at the graveside or whether we're in the grocery store. We don't have to be at the grave, but I do understand that there are people who really want to be at the grave because they feel that it's a way of them showing respect to their loved ones. So I do understand that. However, I would stress, if you want to give flowers to your loved ones, don't take them to the grave, because when you walk away from the grave, the flowers are left on the ground, and your loved ones walk with you. And who gets the flowers? Nobody gets the flowers. So if you want to honor and to show respect to your family, to those you love, buy the flowers, put them in a vase, buy that person's photograph, so that not only you can enjoy them, your loved ones in the spirit world can enjoy them too, because they're much more in your house than ever they are in the ground, where they are not, nor ever will be. I hope that helps a little bit.
Dean has a comment.
Yes.
I had a rose-breasted nuthatch feed right next to my hand this morning for 5 minutes.
I take it that's a bird.
Yes.
Okay. All right then. How fabulous is that?
Yeah.
When are you going to make the Christmas cake is what I want to know. Come on, get on with it.
Nettie asks,
good morning, Nettie.
Sometimes at night I feel my bed shaking and I wake up and no one is there. Is that someone visiting me? Sometimes I ask, why are you here? How can you discern this?
Well, it can be that somebody else is there, but very often, though, it's more to do with what's happening with us and with our body. And it's very, very likely that what is happening is that you've left your body, out you go, off to wherever you're traveling to. And then when as you're leaving your body, there's a lot of vibration going on. As you come back into your body, there's a lot of vibration going on. It's possibly that, whether you're coming in or going out, that your experience is shaking of the bed. My daughter used to, when she was a little girl, she used to experience it all the time. And it can be quite scary if you don't quite know what's going on, but it's all about vibration and vibrational levels, Nettie.
We've got 2 people who just joined us. They're thankful that you're still on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I am sorry. Let me apologize again. For whatever reason, the feed, whatever that means, when we initially came on, the computer wasn't working. We had to switch the computer off and then go into We had to switch the entire computer off because we were not getting through. People could hear us, but they couldn't see us. So we had to switch off and restart all over again. So I do apologize to those of you who have been trying to get us. So let's have these two lovely people who persevered and finally managed to get hold of us.
The first one is Vicky.
Good morning, Vicky.
Vicky says, I asked a question before the site went down. My son has been gone 5 years and his birthday is tomorrow. What can I do to feel his presence, particularly tomorrow?
We did actually mention this a little bit earlier on, but I'm going to hopefully help you with this. First, let me say that I do feel for you for your loss, and I know how painful the loss of a child is, the worst ever, I believe, for any of us. I'm speaking now as a mother and as a grandmother. I so love to be able to say that I'm a grandmother. Do you know that I have waited so long to be a grandmother? And I so love to say that I'm a mother. So I do feel very, very strongly that the loss of a child has to be, without a doubt, the worst ever. So my heart goes out to you for that. But I do know that he's fine. I do know that he's well. Gregor has his hand on my shoulder. He's not, though I'm saying this to you. I'm going to suggest that, you know, in the morning when you first wake up, this is what I'm being told by Grey Eagle, look into the far corner of the room. He will be standing there. Whether you see him or whether you simply feel him, there will be some connection for you. He will be standing in the corner of the room and he'll be looking at you and he will be there with you. The second thing I'm going to suggest that you do, which might be so hard, you can do this, you know, I've said before, it is okay to grieve. It is okay for you to cry. Don't think you've got to be brave for him. As long as you smile for him through your tears, it's okay. But have a party, celebrate, or do something nice for you. Go somewhere nice. If you're near a beach, go walk on a beach. If you're near a mountain, go take a walk in the mountains. Whatever it is, do something that is good for you, that you feel, and remember this is about you, what you're feeling, that you feel that he might like to do too. And he will go with you, spend the day with you, he'll be there for you right by your side. And apparently you must like to cook, or maybe you hate cooking, but he'd like to cook. He'd like to be in the kitchen with you when you cook. Maybe you should make him a birthday cake. He'll be with you when that is happening. Let us know what you think about that, can you?
That's it for today.
I thought you said there were two people.
Yeah, there is. She doesn't have a question. It's Brooks Equine. And she says, oh no, I missed things again. Love you, Rosemary, Carolyn, and Al. And I reached out to her and asked her if she had any questions. And there's been no response.
Okay. We're going to spend the next at least a minute. If anybody wants to make a comment, I'm going to say to Dean, you need to get the Christmas cake on. I know it's been tough for you, but if you get all of the ingredients, as soon as the house is ready at the weekend, you'll be ready to go. Besides which, you need to soak your fruit. So, you know, there are lots of things you can do beforehand to get it all ready. So I'm just saying, I want you to make this Christmas cake because I really want you to know how really, really delicious and good it is. Speaking of Christmas, it's coming very, very soon. We are going to have something going on for Christmas, right, Carolyn? But we are busy at the moment. Like the cookbook is so, how close do you think it is?
I'm not sure, but it should be done. There's no reason why it shouldn't be done.
We're putting up the last of the photos this week. It goes to the publishing house, keeping my fingers crossed next week, at which point then we then have to edit it, but it should be ready for Christmas. Unfortunately, it's going to not be cheap because it's costing us at least $60 for us to get the publisher to publish it for us. But I have an idea of a way that we can get it done. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But that has to come after Christmas. But the reason I made this Christmas cookbook in the first place, not Christmas book, but cookbook in the first place, is because my daughter, since for at least the last 20 or 30 years, has been calling me, Mom, do you remember when you made such and such when I was 11 at school, and you used to make that, whatever it was, that delicious flan with all the creamy custard in it. Can I have the recipe for that? Mom, can you tell me how to make pavlova? Mom, how do I make this? How do I make that? And then, of course, my friends would say, can you give me the recipe for this or that? And very often my recipes had to do with opening the cupboard door, looking and seeing what I've got and making something up. So I decided it was about time I started writing things down. It never was meant to be a cookbook. It was simply something that I was able to pass on to my daughter. But then I thought, why not make a book of it? And why not put some family pictures in there, which we've done. We've got pictures of food, right? We've got pictures of Reese, we've got pictures of, not so much of me, but one or two of me and Samantha, and Kachura. We've got one of Kachura at least that I know of. So we've got some, family stuff going on in there as well. So if you want to know more about that, email us rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com, or you can go to Rosemary in the Kitchen. And see some of the recipes that I'm making and having fun making. Do we have any more comments? Anything else? Yes, we do.
Twiggy Leaf.
Good morning, Twiggy Leaf. Oh, what a lovely name.
Thank you. I love you, Rosemary. I was a twin in the womb, but they were miscarried.
Okay.
What happened to them? Did they have a soul, or did they go off to heaven? Were they? Well, I'm sorry.
She means her twin.
Yes. Were they born in a different baby, or are they?
Right. There is a fantastic story. I can't remember which book it's in now. I think it might be in The Eagle and the Rose, and it's a story about twins. And I wish I could tell you more. Yes, they have a soul. Yes, they grow with you. Twins grow with twins, whether one is in the spirit world and one is here or whatever. Twins grow with twins. It's how it is. The twin that I saw with the lady who came to see me, who had forgotten even that she was a twin, because she didn't even realize that she was a twin. She was in her, I won't say in her early to mid 50s, something like that. And her twin brother was also the same, and she had two girls, and he'd been around her girls since they were babies. A couple of houses that went into, they had a poltergeist who they named Charlie, and her twin actually said to her at one point, I'm Charlie. I was the poltergeist. I was the one who went into the bathroom and threw all the towels all over the place, just so that I would be noticed. And so, yes, I hope that answers your question. Do we have anything else before we move forward here? Because we were late starting,
yes.
Trying to give people an opportunity.
Okay, so Vera asks, can other dead people go home with you if you visit your loved ones at the grave?
Oh, you are lovely, aren't you? That's a lovely question.
She says, I say before I go out that they are not allowed to follow me.
Well, they're not at the graveyard. We discussed this anyway. Nobody's really in the ground. So nobody's going to necessarily attach themselves to you. And I think they've got way better things to do, Vera. I love you to pieces. I love that question. It made me smile.
But the amount of ghost hunting shows
I know,
on certain channels
really
makes, some of us, how many times have I come to you and said, Rosemary, how do they keep making all these shows if,
because people, from the time we're born as babies, we how many times you say boo to a baby like that? Did that make you jump, everybody out there? Did you go like that? How many times do we say boo to a baby and they startle and then they start to giggle? We just love, don't we? We just love to be scared sometimes. I don't know why Carolyn watches all these shows. I've no idea why she watches all these shows, but you do love to be scared, don't you? And her daughter loves to be scared as well. What can I tell you? A lot of nonsense out there.
We don't watch those shows, by the way.
No. Okay, all right. But there is a lot of nonsense, and don't worry, Vera. Nobody is going to follow you home, and unless you invite them, of course. Nobody but your own loving, wonderful family will follow you home. Nobody. Anything else? That's it. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We're apologizing once again. If you need to know more about us or you want to get in touch with us. Rosemary, email us, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. It is not Rosemary, for all of you out there who think it is. Rosemary. I can't believe I'm having to spell my own name. Altea, Altea, Rosemary Altea. So it's rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. Tomorrow night, I will be with my co-host, Al, who we've missed today, by the way. And he'll be back and we'll be doing the Everything is Attitude show. As I said last week, Jeff was our guest. So we'll be doing the Everything is Attitude, which is, it's a really great show. It's 6 o'clock Standard Eastern Time, which is, just, it's a fun show. And we talk about how people's attitudes can affect, in a good way, a positive way, or in a negative way, our lives. And we've got some good help and advice going on there. So if you'd like to join us there, or you can, even if you can't join us live, you can find us on Facebook and on YouTube and on Twitter and on Instagram and on all of those other places to do. If you need to know more about the new book, forgotten it for a minute, A Walk in the Clouds. It is a great book, and I do love the book. If you want to know more about that, lulu.com. If you go there and you type in Everything is Attitude by Rosemary Altea, they'll have it up for you right there. Or if you're struggling with that, email us, rosemary@rosemaryaltea, and we'll help you with that. Thank you very, very much for joining me. All of those of you who joined us live, thank you for persevering with us. Thank you for all of you who couldn't make it live, but is watching me even as I'm saying this to you. So thank you, thank you, thank you to all of you. And until I see you again next week, or even tomorrow night, please, please, please have a very, very, very blessed day. I now have to find that little arrow. Where is it? It's there somewhere. Oh, there it is. And yes, please have a very, very blessed day.